Hi guys, so it's been a while since I swapped the switches on my Wooting 60HE, and since then there have been so many great options for your magnetic switches. The most recommended switch by far has been the Gateron Jades with the dual rail system and the closed bottom, and they basically need no lubing to sound extremely good from the get-go. But because the release of Wooting 80HE has been on the horizon constantly, I didn't bother trying different switches on my Wooting 60HE for the remainder of its lifetime. Well, that was until the switch making company TTC messaged me and told me that they had released the new king of magnetic switches, the TTC Magneto, and I couldn't refuse, mainly for two reasons: because I am a huge Marvel nerd, and secondly, because that is a pretty bold claim to make, and I need to check that one out. So let's swap these bad boys to my Wooting and see how they perform. There are basically three things that separate the TTC Magneto from other magnetic switches that are on the market. First thing is that the switch is made to be completely dust proof. I really haven't had any dust related issues on my other magnetic switches, but I usually keep my desk pretty clean due to dust allergies. These however feel very solid, and the wobble on the stem is like super minimal. Then these switches have this interesting dual stem thing going on. What that means for the end user is something that I don't completely understand yet, but I believe sometime in the future you could swap the bottom stem to a different material, and that would possibly have an effect on the typing feel and the sound. They have implemented some ancient Chinese techniques to make the stem feel very solid, even though it's two pieces of plastic, which is nice. I am really interested in seeing how well this structure holds up after some time on these switches. Then there is this super long spring inside the switch that is like 21 millimeters in total length. Just to compare the springs in Gateron magnetic switches, they are only 15 millimeters. So this is something very new to me. It is supposed to feel more elastic, responsive, and they even say it will give you a huge competitive advantage in esports games. I'm not sure about the latter, but yeah, we'll see about that. The total travel distance on these is 3.5 millimeters, which is the same as on the Gateron Jades. This is half a millimeter shorter than the stock Wooting switch and the white Gateron magnetic dual rail switch, the KS20U. The initial force is announced to be 35 gram force, and on the switches I made a checkup. This was spot on correct. Here is a small comparison table of the forces I checked about the switches I have in my possession. But yeah, I think it's time for a quick sound test now that the switches have been fully installed. So overall, the switch has a rather clacky, high-pitched sound from the box that is then pronounced even more by the ABS keycaps that I had. I didn't like the sound at all, and pretty much then proceeded to try a bunch of different configurations and finally settled with the double-shot PPT keycaps from Ghost Judges together with the Freebird 60 case that I actually had on my first modding video about the Wooting. You could probably improve the sound more with lubing the switches, since the stock lubing was pretty much only applied to the base of the spring, but I really had no interest in doing so because it takes so much time. But then, how do they feel to play with? I'd say these are pretty amazing switches that are a worthwhile alternative to the Gateron offerings. I have not tried the Jades yet, but I have the white ones on two of my keyboards, and compared to those and the Leckers, you can really feel the difference in the spring height. The switch press feels like a completely same tensioned through the whole key press, and there is like no increase on the tension when near bottoming out. Also, the dust proof housing makes the switch feel like really rigid and the switches don't wobble around annoyingly. So yeah, I can vouch for these if you are looking to try other magnetic switches and like to switch things up a bit. To the claims TTC made about these offering a competitive edge over other switches in esports, I'm not still convinced, but these are very good magnetic switches nevertheless. But I think that is all about this one. See you next week and goodbye.